Welcome to Worship Leader Hangout. My name's Chad. Today I'm hanging out with Jake from the band LARK. He's going to show us a few things on the guitar to make your guitarist better, or to make you better as a guitarist. So take it away, man.
Yeah, like he said, my name's Jake. I play in a band called LARK, and I've played worship guitar for a lot of years in a lot of different contexts. And I just wanted to take you guys through some tips on how you can get the best sounds out of your rig, no matter what you're playing and what gear you're using and stuff like that. So we'll start with the amp. It can be any kind of amp, really, whatever you're using, because there's such a range of different guitars and different amps that work for worship music. But I generally find that cleaner, higher headroom amps are going to be the best bang for your buck using pedals and trying to get different sounds and stuff like that. So what I always do is with any amp, you can start, you find just where your volume setting's at. And so, you know, we've got the volume dialed in already, but I want to just take you through taking the tone controls, the treble, bass, and mid-range and all that, just take them down to 0 and start trying to notch out what frequencies you want to hear out of it. So I would just play something like an E chord, you know, and then start rolling the treble in. And there's a spot you'll find where the treble really comes in the most. And for this amp, that happens to be right between 4 and 5. So I hear that, and that's really where I start to hear the high-end frequencies coming in. And so the amp is kind of doing the most in its range right there. And then same thing with the bass. Yeah. Again, same thing with the bass. It sounds right like it's rolling in the most right at about a little over 4. So when I hear that, that to me sounds like the most natural and organic, clean sound, and that's probably the best place to start as a pedal player. And so I think that's a great way, no matter what kind of amp, how it's voiced, that's a great way to start dialing it in to get the most appropriate sounds from the pedals and the guitar. It doesn't matter what you're using. So yeah, we'll go over the pedals and we'll take a look at some stuff that I'm using that I think is probably going to be most helpful for people. I know a lot of people like to use compression, but I'm not a huge fan of it because I use humbucker pickups mostly. So I think your biggest basics to start with is really just some kind of overdrive that you can have that has some versatile range to it, and then a delay and a reverb. And that's gonna be the best place for anybody to start out with the pedals. There's so much sounds you can get out of just those 3 kinds of pedals as long as you know how to manipulate them and use them in some different ways. So we'll start with the overdrive, and I'll just show you guys kind of like what I look for in a pedal and how you can dial it in no matter what type of pedal you're using. So when I turn the pedal on, I want to hear a little bit of volume boost, because depending on where I'm at in the song, I want the volume to come up from my clean sound to go along with the band's sort of level of energy at that moment and boost the sound for a minute. So I'll start and just make sure the volume is being boosted a little bit, and then just like I did with the amp tone controls, I'll do the same thing with an overdrive tone control. So for me, at 0, that feels pretty flat, and I want to kind of hear the notch frequency come in. So to me, it sounds like the tone control is doing the most when it's rolled just a little bit under halfway there. And then drive is kind of set to taste, you know, I'll turn it up or down based on what kind of song or what the moment is, you know. With a higher drive setting, I might do more lead stuff. And then I might turn the drive down for a cleaner part, you know, if I'm trying to... You know, for some cleaner picking and arpeggios and stuff like that. So that can kind of be wherever. This pedal is really nice because it has two sides, and on the other side I have more of a solo lead or like a big lead sound, you know. And that works for me for a lot of different lines and stuff. I'll turn the drive typically up, and the, you know, the tone control I can kind of keep set wherever. But to me, the most important thing with any kind of overdrive sound, any lead sound, is that you want to find a spot, a kind of level balance between the volume and the drive where you have some compression and some sustain from the pedal, but it doesn't get into that fizzy, overly compressed territory. Like that note rings out for a while, and I can really work with it and hold it for a minute, but it doesn't to me sound too fizzy or like it has too much gain. Because the more you start to add with overdrive and compression and stuff like that, you lose volume and dynamics. And to me, that's the most important thing you can have going between all your gain stages and levels and everything like that. So the next thing I'll talk about for a minute is just the way I use delay pedals. I like to have a really subtle, basic delay sound. So I'll show you an example of that. It's literally just... And to me, a sound like that doesn't get in the way of the rest of your pedals and your amp and everything too much. So you can really kind of use that for any sort of situation, you know. You can use it for chordal playing. If you have a drive pedal on, you can use it for lead. And that sort of sound works for a really huge variety of situations. But I also will have a delay sound that I can use for more like the rhythmic stuff. Like if you have a dotted eighth part that you need to use a delay sound that's really dominant in the mix, I have another delay for that. But you can also just try and find a pedal that you can get both sounds out of, just tweaking the knobs a little bit. So this kind of sound is what I would typically use a delay for like this for. And I feel like that sound is maybe, it's going away a little bit in contemporary worship stuff, but it was pretty huge for a while. So I find that it's pretty important to still have a sound like that at your fingertips or your feet. So I keep that pedal on, but you can also use delay for some cool ways to fatten up your lead parts. Like a thing I'll do all the time is turn the feedback and the mix really high up on a pedal, just so that you can get more of more of an aggression and an intensity in your lines. Like you know, that sound really adds a lot, as opposed to if I was playing by itself. So yeah, I think having a delay that you can turn the mix and the feedback up pretty high and get just some different colors and tones out of what you're doing is super important. And I think, you know, my philosophy with pedals is basically to always be tweaking stuff. You know, always get down on the floor and trying to find the most appropriate setting for the moment. Because you can get so much out of one stomp box. And that's why I always encourage people to try and learn their gear better rather than going out and buying new gear or you know, buying a pedal based on what somebody else is using, when you might be able to find that exact same sound in a pedal you already have. You just haven't done the work to tweak the knobs and really find out how that how that pedal reacts in some different situations. And so I guess on that same note, the last sort of most used setting I would say is just to have a reverb that you have some variety in. So I have this Strymon Flint pedal here, and I actually have a favorite switch for it so that I can get a cleaner reverb that I can keep on more of the time, and then a really ambient verb that I'll use for swells and more textural parts, you know. So that to me is about as much reverb as I ever want to hear for like big lines or like high chimey lead parts, you know. I think some people use reverb in a way where it really dominates the sound, and to me that just gets lost in the mix. So whether I'm doing lines or whether I'm doing high chimey parts or whatever, I really just like a subtle reverb, unless I'm doing more ambient stuff. And just so you can hear it without the delay. You know, it's like that kind of sound, really, really long tail. And then I'll add some delay, you know, maybe a slight amount of gain. Yeah, you know, just sort of that kind of sound. And really, I think if you have kind of those 4 or 5 bases covered, you should be able to get through really any set of music, you know. Everything else that I have or anybody else has to me is really superfluous, and it's more for your own enjoyment in a musical context than what's absolutely necessary. So yeah, like I said, just try and spend some time and really work with the pedals that you have. Twist all the knobs, you know, change the way your amp sounds, change the way your guitar sounds, and try and just find as many possible different combinations as you can get out of the gear that you already have to really start dialing in a sound you want to hear from the gear. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, just let us know in the comments below. He's going to be kind of going through the comments occasionally and just answering anything you might have. Also, I can reach back to them and just try to answer your questions. I know it can be a little tough. But I really appreciate you being a part of this and teaching us. I mean, this is amazing information. I love how, you know, it doesn't matter necessarily what kind of, what the exact gear we actually have. Totally. But just to experiment and see what we can get out of the gear that we do actually already have. So, right. But thank you so much for watching. Remember, great worship leaders and guitarists are always learning. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks.
Play us out.